up, everybody? This is Felipe Esparza, comedian, winner of Last Comic Standing. You are listening to Harv Roman on WCGO.
Out of my mind, there's nothing I can say to make you change your mind. I'm out of control, I'm losing my mind, I'm running out of time, and I'm so confused, I still can't believe I don't know my own name.
At 1450. I got a throat in my frog. AM 1590 is WCGO Radio Chicago. It is a Saturday morning. Time for another exciting edition of Club Kids Radio, or another exciting edition of Celebrity Hotline Conversation, as heard every morning right here in Chicago's 1590 AM, and then eventually as a podcast over at www.wakeupdancing.com. That is something that was sent to me by Daniel Scott. Sitting ovation for Daniel, one of my newer friends, but the friendship goes back like 10 or 12 years, but in terms of the freestyle movement, it was a newer friend musically, and via the interview, that's Hyena Music with something entitled Sober, which is kind of, I guess, a little timely, considering the whole Amy Winehouse fiasco, tragedy, however you want to call it, where she had her big song about rehab, no, and then you've got Hyena talking about sober because she is sober, so it's a nice little opposite song. And we also want to pay tribute and send our thoughts, our condolences, our prayers out to everybody in Norway. A couple of tragedies recently in Norway which were insane. You had the bombing in downtown Oslo or something like that, where people died and offices got blown up, and it's an incredible situation. And just when you're reeling from that, then you wind up hearing the news of this summer camp where a gunman was dressed as a police officer, and kids who thought that they might be getting help from him wound up getting killed, or young adults, and it's a crazy situation. And the fact that we're here doing Club Kids Radio and focusing a lot on the youth, the community, and culture of our kids, when you read something like that and when you see the news footage, it just kind of makes you think about things a little bit more and reflect a little bit more about our good fortunes as opposed to things that could be happening. Yeah, we've had a very hot summer. We've had a very rainy, windy, tree falling on top of houses and cars kind of summer, and that followed a very, very snowy winter. And yet still, we're here to celebrate life. We're here to continue making decisions. We're here to continue trying to do what best we could for ourselves and the people that we love. And in Norway, you have more than 90 people due to a bombing or due to some gunman who will not have that opportunity or that choice, and it's a terrible thing to wind up losing people in that way. I mean, it's always a tragedy to lose people. It's even more tragic when it's as senseless as that. I'll get off on my high horse about that, but it drives me crazy. And then how do you explain this to young people? How do you explain this to kids at the Boys and Girls Clubs? How do you explain this to the students of the charter school when they're asking, what's going on? I was signed up to a day camp. I went to Wisconsin for a summer camp. What if something like that was to occur? How would we react? And there's really no logical explanation for things that happen except to tell the young people that there are a lot of things that are inexplicable. There are a lot of humans that are not so much humans. There are a lot of people in civilization that are not so civil, and they wind up making some very, very selfish decisions that cost a lot of people, not just, the people that make these decisions. Anyhow, on that note, let us continue with this particular edition of Celebrity Hotline Conversations over here at Club Kids Radio. We've got 2.5 hours to fill today, and two very, very different ways of performing arts. We've got Felipe Esparza on the Celebrity Hotline. Felipe Esparza was the 2010 winner of Last Comic Standing, and he'll be at the Chicago Improv the 29th of July through the 31st of July. Go to improv.com and click on the Schaumburg tab to find out more about that. And I met him. Initially, I got to see him at Viva la Risa that was presented by George Lopez a little more than a month ago. And then I clicked on his Facebook, and he actually responded, and the next thing you know, he's on the Celebrity Hotline. Then in the second half hour of this particular edition of Club Kids Radio, we'll talk to Roberto Negron, and we'll talk to Mary Sanchez of the Miracle Center, because that youth ensemble theater production company is putting on Chicago's Puerto Rican Story, an adaptation of the documentary that was put out recently, not so recently, a few years ago, by Antonio and Gloricelli Franceschi, and that also is here on the 30th of July, but then again the 5th and the 6th of August. And I'm talking a little bit too much as I look at the clock, and I want to be able to give you as many words of Felipe Esparza and Mary Santana and Roberto Negron as we can. And if we can't quite fit it in this particular hour of Club Kids Radio, then when we put up the podcast at www.wakeupdancing.com, I will add the voice tracks that we didn't quite hear this morning on Club Kids Radio. So there you go. You'll hear about an hour now, and whatever you don't get now, you will get later. And then you'll say, cool, I got to hear the whole thing. And then on the following edition of Club Kids Radio, any tracks you may have missed out on, then I'll play that as the following Saturday's morning program. So there you go. What a cool concept. You get to see somebody at the Park West. You get to meet the guy that put it all together because you've known him for years, in George Lopez. And then you have an idea. Can we somehow get a hold of the man who stole the stage on that night, Felipe Esparza? Everybody has a Facebook. You go to Facebook, there he is. And a month later, he's on a Celebrity Hotline. Felipe Esparza, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing
hot over there, isn't it?
It is, man, today's high was like 99 degrees. Yesterday, 99 degrees. And then they tell you it's 99 degrees, and then they ask if you want to know what it feels like. So then they tell you it feels like 117 degrees. I don't know if that's supposed to make us feel any better.
Wow, 117 degrees.
It's you. You're going to come to Schaumburg. You're going to do the improv, and you're bringing a part of East LA to Chicago. But I don't know how hot it gets over there. I know these days it's 99 degrees.
Wow, it gets hot over here too, like 107, but there's no wind chill factor. There's no humidity. It feels like 107, and you're burning.
But it's a dry heat.
Yeah, it's a dry heat, man. You feel it.
Yeah, well, but see, if you came here with your mane the way you usually keep it, all kind of Felipe-like, you would sudar a little bit.
Oh, believe me, man, when it's that hot, I carry a box of baby powder with me.
Man, we're talking to Felipe Esparza. He's on the Celebrity Hotline. And I first got a look at you at the Viva la Risa Comedy Festival, courtesy of TBS, just about a month ago in the city. And I have to give you credit, Felipe. You went on stage and you did your thing and you ruled the stage and you told everybody you were on Facebook. So I go on the Facebook, I look you up, there you are, and that's where I actually clicked and I asked about doing an interview, and you answered pretty promptly and said, okay, you want to do a radio interview? Go to this guy. And then we go to that guy, and the next thing you know, a week before Schaumburg, you're on the Celebrity Hotline.
The Celebrity Hotline on AM.
No, well, that's pretty neat, though, because it happened just like that. You're handling your own affairs. You're not surrounded by everybody. Where's your posse?
I don't have no posse. It's just me, myself, and I, and my girlfriend, Lisa Daniel.
And that's your posse right there. That's a pretty good group to run with, though, isn't it?
Yes. Because when you have a big posse, you get in trouble.
So I appreciate the fact that you responded so quickly. I appreciate the fact, too, that I know you're doing press during the mornings of the Schaumburg shows. The problem is, in real life, I work full-time at a school, and so I couldn't be there for the mornings. And then your people said, you know what, he's going to call you at 7 o'clock, and you'll just record the conversation. You may not meet up with each other, but you'll get a nice conversation out of the deal. And again, this is above and beyond the Call of Duty when you actually could be inside looking at those fantabulous Dodgers.
Yes, man. Right now we're doing okay, man. We're like tied for last.
Well, you know what we used to do in the Cubland, you flip the paper upside down, you're not last anymore.
First.
Wow. The 2010 last comic standing. So you know what this means, Felipe. This means that you are an overnight success being the 2010 last comic standing.
Yes, man. People tell me that, wow, overnight success that took 15 years.
Tell me about that, because a lot of people discovered you because of Last Comic Standing, but you've been around forever.
Yeah, I've been around forever on the underground comedy of East Los Angeles and South Central Los Angeles, Santa Ana, California. You know, the ghetto parts in Denver show you. Those are the rooms that I would do. A lot of bars, a lot of biker bars, a lot of bars where there were surfers and cholos and strippers. Oh my.
Well, that must have been horrible for you to experience.
Yes, I pretty much learned how to enunciate at these shows. Paying attention.
Wow. Well, that's the thing that caught up with me, because I know Last Comic Standing it's kind of an interesting mix, because you'll have veterans who have been around forever, then you have kind of rookies who are just starting off in the business, and then you all go toe-to-toe to try to figure out who's funnier than who are. What made you decide to run for that title in 2010 after having been around for about 10, 15 years?
Well, when I got the audition, I was not too excited to do it because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to waste my time again. I'm not going to go that far. But this time I was ready. I just put on my little sports coat and my tie.
I saw that.
I got
and
my beach cruiser.
And you know what, Felipe? That's not the Felipe I saw at the Park West a month ago. You are not the jacket and tie guy.
Oh, man, it was hot that day, too.
And so you decided to audition. You weren't certain that it was going to go the way you wanted it to go, but apparently things turned out okay.
Yes, man. I made it through, and this what really sold me to the networks was that I rode my bicycle to the audition, and no one else did. So I made an interesting story. Here's a guy that been doing it forever and never gave up, and he pedals his way to victory like Rocky.
Well, I remember one of your buddies, their interesting story turned out to be, let's use an illegal cell phone and get booted off the show.
Oh, yeah, man. Poor Gabriel.
Yeah, but yeah, a lot of us watching on TV were thinking, you know what, Gabriel's kind of established, so he probably figured, you know what, I cannot live in this house with 28 other comics, so let's do something, and then I could wave dramatically.
Yeah, Gabriel, he ended up winning, though, even though he was kicked out, because he wasn't tied down to no NBC deal, and he wasn't obligated to do no comedy tour, so he went on to do his own thing.
Yeah, how tight do you guys get? Because Gabriel's one of those where he kind of does a Felipe experience, if you think about some of the material he does, and then when you do something like Viva la Risa, you're all there for the same cause, even though George kind of mixes it up a little bit, and it almost seems like you guys are a part of a really tight-knit family, but in comedy, I don't know if that exists anymore, does it?
Yeah, well, when we first started doing stand-up comedy, I used to hang around with Gabriel Iglesias every day. He had a Volvo, and I had a Volvo. His was stick shift, mine was automatic. his broke down, I would give him rides. Him and I would share one chicken sandwich from the night before in San Diego, and we cooked it on the coffee pot.
Cruising down the boulevard with 215s out hitting hard, booming down the street like lightning. My rhythm's raging loud and so frightening. Did wrong people 4 blocks down the street. They hear me come on banging, booming my funky beats. The law told me to turn it down. I just laughed. Now I'm on my funky sound, rhythmic, ecstatic, excites your soul. You feel my rhythm come alive, you lose control. 20,000 hype fans stop and scream. White Knight's back for real, it's not a dream. So feel my rhythm hit your veins and start the flow. Play back, exact, I'm back. No one just because blow. I'm the power and fam. I'm here to rock the party. People start dancing on every block. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system.
Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this. Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this. Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this. Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this.
Hot summer night, system is blaring. You're hanging on the boulevard, just staring at a cutie. She jumped in your eye. It's not Rita, it's Blanca, big fat booty. Sex machine, dopest Puerto Rican girl that you ever seen. Now the party's back, then the crowd starts jumping. My system's pumping 5.0, hype on the set, dancing on the dance floor, we just soaking wet. Gang banging in the streets. DJs cutting up the funky beats. Hype crowd screaming, yo, my name. Sold out concert tours, my claim to fame. My booming system dooming late at night. My booming system booming music that's hype. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system. Make you dance, make you dance, make you dance to my booming system.
Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this. Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this. Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this. Party people, pumping, party people pumping they fists like this.
Top of the hour, world-breaking news. Rap star White Knight was arrested today for playing his radio too loud. Police officials said he fled the scene. He was chased and caught several blocks away. White Knight, how do you feel about this? Man.
But then he went on to be successful, you know. He went his way, and I stood back, kept going in the grind, you know, never gave up. And I still see him at the Christmas party. Every year he has a Christmas party where he pays for all the food, all the drinks for the first hour, by the way. And then sometimes there's always a magician and some of the members of War and Tierra volunteer and they play music for us. So yeah, man, we're pretty tight when it comes to being as a tight group, but we don't like associate with each other. Like we all have our own cliques. But when someone gets hurt, like when a comedian falls down, like just say Melanie Martinez, for example, we all pitched in and we did a big fundraiser for her. Gabriel Iglesias, Paul Rodriguez, Carlos Mencia showed up, Al Madrigal, myself. So we're pretty much tight, man. We got each other's back, and we stab each other in the back the same way as well. So, but after all that, we have a lot of respect for each other. Not in person though, but we do.
Talking to Felipe Esparza. You can go to www.felipesworld.com. Also go to iTunes, look for Rebound Material, and there's Felipe Esparza on the cover of that. And if you watch him perform, he gets to tell you about his life and all of his successes inside and outside of the bedroom, because you know you're some hot stud, they say.
Yeah, I'm not like that no more. I talk about, you know, my body. You know, my body is like the kind of body you look at when you want to start working out.
You know, that was one of the more interesting things you said, and that's something about your humor, that even 16 years later, you're not necessarily doing topical political stuff. The material that I've seen you do, it's all pretty much, you know, real life, real humor, stuff that the audience relates to. And then as soon as you start talking about some of these things, including your bigness and your secret in terms of weight loss, the crowd buys into it right away because they all can relate. That's a pretty neat thing to be able to do after all these years, because a lot of times, Felipe, sometimes people develop doing one sort of material and then they move on and do something else.
Yeah, they evolve, I guess. I don't know why. But I just try to write material about what happens to me, things that happen in real life to me, like the changes in my neighborhood. Like, like you grow up not knowing what's really going on in your neighborhood. Like, I have moved into a lot of crappy neighborhoods, right? And I grew up in one that was really bad. But I always get there when gentrification is about to start. Like right now I live in Echo Park, and like there's a lot of nice homes that are very expensive, but there's also a crack house right next door.
Well, you have to have that though, because if I remember Echo Park correctly, that was Mi Vida Loca. That's where that all happened with Sad Eyes and Tattoo Girl and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was like what, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but it hit a lot of the teenagers here in Chicago kind of deeply because the girls had started to do some insane things here in the city, and then this movie comes out and it kind of, in some ways, glorifies everything that we're trying to tell the kids not to do, and there's Echo Park for you.
Yeah, man. Did you see that other movie, Quinceañera?
I did see that one.
Yeah.
That was where Daddy got all upset, and then it turned out that you're pregnant, you're kicked out of the house, and it was really, really dramatic. But it's like these old school value systems that are still there sometimes, but because it's 2011, the young people are having trouble comprehending.
I know, man. Like, I was talking to my girlfriend about that, you know, because I know, like, growing up where I grew up at, in the inner city, in the projects, you know, real bad neighborhood. But you don't know it's a bad neighborhood because you live in it.
Right.
Well, I thought it was just a normal part of life. But I remember, like, when some of my friends were, like, what, 15, 16 years old, and some of them will get pregnant, or my friend will get someone pregnant, you know, and instead of our families, you know, coming together and solving this problem, you know, instead of making it, you know, how we're gonna get over this problem that my friend got pregnant at 15, you know, instead of finding solutions to that, you know, in my neighborhood, the older people would just bash her, like say, "Oh, your life is over. You fuck. What's wrong with you?" Yeah, I'm sorry, but you know, like, your life is over. Instead of telling her, you know what, that's just one stepping stone in your life, you know. Okay, so you got pregnant, you know. Don't let that stop you from moving on in life. But in my neighborhood, it felt like whenever, like, you joined a gang or started smoking pot for the first time or did drugs or picked up a beer for the first time, everybody always made it look like your life was over. So growing up, that was my mentality, that, oh, I got some girl pregnant, my life is over. I remember being 19 years old and this woman telling me at my job, telling me, "Listen, you're only 19. You got your whole life ahead of you." And that was the first time somebody told me that.
The interesting thing, though, coming from where you come from, a lot of times when you're 19, that's the end of the line, and some people never even make it to 19.
I know, and then there's so much more after that. 19 is nothing. I don't remember what happened at 19.
So now, was it your sense of humor? What was it as different as you were? Because you come on stage and do Black Sabbath to Guitar Hero. So I'm assuming that you grew up with Ozzy Osbourne and then that bunch. Is that what set you apart from the groups that were making the goofy mistakes, or were these still your buddies but you made different decisions?
I'm going out, I'm gonna paint the town like I'm ballin' out. I'm on my grind, I'm looking fly, my people's getting high. Check out my swag tonight, we gonna have some fun. If you could forget about what's on your mind and just have a good time tonight. for another round. We doing shots, honey's looking fly. Man, I'm feeling good, I'm just enjoying life. Feel good, feel good, it feels good, so
Is that what set you apart from the groups that were making the goofy mistakes, or were these still your buddies but you made different decisions?
Oh man, it's just that I grew up in the housing projects of Pico Aliso and Aliso projects, right? So my whole neighborhood was surrounded by housing projects. My elementary school was inside the housing projects. Like, there was no walking out of my neighborhood to go to school. My school was built in the housing project, so everybody in my neighborhood never left the neighborhood. There was little stores that were outside of my neighborhood that were just like outside, but nobody ventured out. I was the only one, man. My neighborhood got too small for me. What happened? So I would always try to leave my neighborhood. I try to catch a bus and go to the beach or something, you know, try to fill my mind with something other than just sit on my porch and smoke weed and drink 40 ounces with everybody. Even though I did that too.
Well, but you just didn't do it as much or with the same group. Maybe you did it on your own somewhere so nobody will catch you.
Yeah.
So at what point did you decide, you know what, there's something funny about me and let's start exploring that? Because that's kind of a tough thing to do, especially in the line of work that you're in now, because unfortunately a lot of people, critics or whoever, will pick out, okay, we already got one of those, we got one of those, we got one of those. So if they mention Mencia, Lopez, Rodriguez, they may not be looking for an Esparza. So at some point you says, you know what, I think I can do what they're doing, and then you went ahead and go on and did it.
Yeah, when I was like in 7th grade, I had a friend named Jackie Escalera, and he lived, it's crazy, like there was a street and there was like houses, not housing projects where I grew up, but across the street there were regular homes that people rented. And one of those, and everybody that lived in those neighborhoods hung out in my neighborhood because it was the funnest. So my friend had a record player, dude, and he took out one of his father's Bill Cosby albums and he played it, and we sat around the record player listening to it.
That is crazy.
I'm gonna lie to you, man. I have never remembered or memorized anything in my life faster than I memorized that Bill Cosby album.
And when you're talking about a Bill Cosby album, it's not 30, 45 minutes. That guy would tell stories for 2 hours.
Yeah, man, that was a story about him and his brother Russell sharing the same bed and arguing over the sheet. And that was like a 1 hour set. And I remember the whole thing. I never forgot it.
Now, because Bill Cosby used a lot of the humor in his own life to kind of develop his style, and now he like lectures. It's just funny lectures. Is this how it shaped your career? Because your material is basically stuff that everybody can talk about. You can talk about a divorce. You can talk about being broke. You can talk about the girlfriend. You can talk about not being able to afford cologne. These are all things that everybody else can talk about too. You just do it behind a mic on a stage in a funny way.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the things that I say on stage, I hear people talk about it. They talk about it like right now I'm walking behind a minivan and there's like a whole family sticker on the back of the whole family, like the father, the mother, the little boy, the little girl, the cat, and the dog peeing. I don't know if you've seen that on the minivan.
No, actually, I have not.
Okay, just the back of someone's car, they put like these stickers of the whole family, little tiny stickers. They're white. Well, there's a bunch of them over here. Not everybody does it, but some big families, they like to put like the immediate family in the back. There's little stickers of cartoons of the whole family. So I made up a joke about the other day I was driving and I saw a van and someone tried to scratch the dad's head off.
Jeez. And that could be real life because most of the marriages, do not end up successfully, I guess.
I know, man. Any family that stays there for the kids is going to be a bad situation for the kids.
Well, but when you talk about your divorce, it sounded like it would be a bad situation for you too, because you didn't know where you were going to end up.
I know, man. What was I going to do when my parents got divorced at 23?
I don't know. That I thought you might have been gone already by then, but if you're a starving artist, I guess you did have to stay at home.
Yeah, man. Not like some families, you know, when they like to put their parents on an old folks home. See, Latino, we can't do that because our parents are not gonna give up the house for nothing.
Hey, let me ask you this. I was thinking about this at the Park West when we were there for Viva la Risa, and George Lopez introduces you. So they say your name, and then you get the polite gulp applause, like, we're not sure about the name. And then as soon as you hit the stage, the place explodes, and you got the biggest pop. It's almost as if people know you when they see you, because of your persona, your personality, you know, your build, whatever. But it took them a while when he said Felipe Esparza. Do you feel the same thing? Or like people say, I know that guy, but then when they see the name in print, they don't know that guy?
I think when they see Felipe Esparza, they just, not everybody can put it together, you know, but once they see the face, they say, oh.
But that, you know what? That's funny.
I've been telling you for years.
That's it. That's exactly what happened with the woman I was with. Her name is Christina, and they introduced you. Polite applause, polite applause. As soon as she saw you, she jumps up for her feet. She starts screaming and yelling like if it was like a rock show. I guess she wanted your attention, and the whole crowd was pretty much the same way. They're standing, they're screaming, they're yelling. That's the guy.
That's me.
Wow, Felipe Esparza, you've got material out now. It's interesting because you were talking about Bill Cosby with his albums, and at one point, you know, you had Red Fox putting albums out, and Steve Martin puts albums out, Richard Pryor puts albums out. You don't see a lot of comedy albums these days, and I'm not sure what the reasons are or whether you want to even talk about that, but you actually have an album that people can download or order from iTunes.
Mine is just a bit. Our love will never fit.
You said too bad.
Our love won't reach its peak. If there's the slightest break,
You took the best that I had.
99 and a half won't do. Gotta have all of your love. 99 and a half won't do. A part of you just ain't
Without that half percent, our love is incomplete.
That's how I knew.
The last drop of your love should belong to only me.
But your eyes,
It's for real.
99
AM 1590 WCGO Radio, where Chicago goes for Club Kids Radio and the Celebrity Hotline Conversations. And on the Celebrity Hotline for most of the last half hour, 2010 winner of Last Comic Standing over on NBC, Felipe Esparza. Go to felipesworld.com because it is the official site of Felipe Esparza. He will be at the Chicago Improv in Schaumburg the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st of July. Improv.com. Look you up for that stuff. And we have two more voice tracks with Felipe Esparza. Talks about, you know, how you can pick up his CD that we talked about, his comedy album. Also going to talk about how George Lopez has impacted him and his career by presenting him at Viva la Risa. But first, in the next half hour of Club Kids Radio, we'll have to go to the Celebrity Hotline again, and we're going to talk to Roberto Negron and Mary Santana of the Miracle Center as their youth ensemble is presenting Chicago's Puerto Rican Story, a youth production company of a very, very important DVD production by Antonio and Gloricelli Franceschi. So I tell you what, if we run out of time in this particular hour of Club Kids Radio, over at www.wakeupdancing.com. The additional voice tracks of Felipe Esparza will be found, so you will not miss any of his words. If you just didn't happen to wake up and listen to 1590, you woke up sleeping, I know it happens to a lot of you, then just clickety-click and there you go. You'll hear and see all about Felipe Esparza and also the Chicago Puerto Rican story as presented by the Miracle Center. Wow, we got to take our breakcito. We're about 5 minutes late for that, right, Denzel?
Denzel Washington for the Boys and Girls Clubs.
In my hand, I'm holding a 2-inch by 3-inch piece of paper that has changed the lives of millions of young people. It's kept them off drugs, out of gangs, and in school. Now, what could be that powerful and still fit in the palm of my hand? A membership card from the Boys and Girls Clubs. Every day, another 300 kids will join clubs all across the country. That's 300 kids who will be picking up a membership card instead of a gun or a needle or a knife. You know, too many people feel like they can't make a difference, but I'm telling you this. Put this card in the hands of a child and you will change that child's life. Do that and you can change the world. It's up to all of us. Support a program that works. The Boys and Girls Clubs, the positive place for kids.
For more information and to find out how you can support the Boys and Girls Clubs, call 1-800-854-CLUB. That's 1-800-854-CLUB.
Wake up, wake up dancing, wake up dancing, wake up dancing. Harv Roman's gonna make you dance. Wake up dancing, wake up dancing, wake up dancing. Wake up, Harv Roman's gonna make you dance.
That's me, and right now we are no longer at 1590 AM WCGO in Chicago. I shouldn't say we're no longer at 1590. Of course, every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, you're going to hear Club Kids Radio and our celebrity hotline conversations that we've done for the first half hour now with Felipe Esparza. And if you were on AM 1590 earlier, you were listening to the conversation that followed Felipe Esparza's conversation. Well, through the miracle of some pretty neat things that can happen through the internet and podcasting and things that we can do when we own our own websites, I have put off a little bit the conversation with the members of TMC who are presenting Chicago's Puerto Rican story. And we'll do that as a whole separate extra edition here on www.wakeupdancing.com. But what I wanted to do is, as I promised at 1590 AM, I said if we run out of time, go to the internet, listen to the podcast, and you will hear the extra voice tracks featuring Harv Roman and Felipe Esparza on the Celebrity Hotline for WCGO1590.com. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have Camouflage. We're going to have Lucas Prada. They're going to sing at you for a little while. And when we return exclusively at www.wakeupdancing.com, the additional voice tracks, the extreme audio footage, like if it was a DVD and there's some extra stuff happening, that happens here with Felipe Esparza on www.wakeupdancing.com.
When the lights are down, It's incredible the high. Next to them I fly. I'm one of them. When the lights are down, I know their secret.
That's me.
Wow, Felipe Esparza, you've got material out now. It's interesting because you were talking about Bill Cosby with his albums, and at one point, you know, you had Red Fox putting albums out, and Steve Martin puts albums out, Richard Pryor puts albums out. You don't see a lot of comedy albums these days, and I'm not sure what the reasons are or whether you want to even talk about that, but you actually have an album that people can download or order from iTunes.
Yeah, a lot of people are not putting out albums like the whole album like before. Like, they don't get it too excited anymore because you can pretty much do a whole hour on YouTube and waste all your material.
You know what? That's kind of true.
Or like me, I made a few mistakes in my comedy career. This is what I would tell a young comic right now. If you're thinking about doing stand-up comedy, don't be like the comics you see on YouTube. Don't put your comedy on YouTube. Wait till it really gets better, because let me tell you, you're not gonna get 2 million hits on your comedy unless it's bizarre.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because in one of the bits that I did happen to see, I actually wrote in one of my notes, I gotta ask Felipe about his open mic theory, because you were telling people about, if you're going to an open mic, this is what you do. And you were actually giving young people advice as to how to dip into the pool of comedy. Do you want to talk about that a little? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, if you're open mic, I would the best time to do in the comedy go by yourself. Because 15 people that you, I'll give you positive feedback. Another 15 people tell you wait.
No, they'll be considered crowd left. You started off your theory about talking about your stream server and write it down. Oh, great. The miracle, www.wakeupdancing.com. What does this mean? Does this mean that cyberspace is affecting how a track sounds when you're playing it on and not playing on the radio? That's pretty weird. So I'm going to push a few buttons here and there in order to make this happen so we can listen to the conversation and not make it seem as if a record was skipping. Records are not supposed to skip. I mean, records skip back then, but CDs, no, not so much. But this just goes to prove to you that whether we're live on AM 1590 or whether we're kind of sort of live at www.wakeupdancing.com, things do skip sometimes. Let's try this again.
That's me.
Wow, Felipe Esparza, you've got material out now. It's interesting because you were talking about Bill Cosby with his albums, and at one point, you know, you had Red Fox putting albums out, and Steve Martin puts albums out, Richard Pryor puts albums out. You don't see a lot of comedy albums these days, and I'm not sure what the reasons are or whether you want to even talk about that, but you actually have an album that people can download or order from iTunes.
Yeah, a lot of people are not putting out albums like the whole album like before. Like, they don't get it too excited anymore because you can pretty much do a whole hour on YouTube and waste all your material.
You know what? That's kind of true.
Or like me, I made a few mistakes in my comedy career. This is what I would tell a young comic right now. If you're thinking about doing stand-up comedy, don't be like the comics you see on YouTube. Don't put your comedy on YouTube. Wait till it really gets better, because let me tell you, you're not going to get 2 million hits on your comedy unless it's bizarre.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because in one of the bits that I did happen to see, I actually wrote in one of my notes, I gotta ask Felipe about his open mic theory, because you were telling people about, if you're going to an open mic, this is what you do. And you were actually giving young people advice as to how to dip a toe into the pool of comedy. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, man, if you're going to do open mic, I would say the best time to do stand-up comedy is going there by yourself. Because if you bring 15 people that know you, they're all going to give you positive wrong feedback. None of the 50 people are going to tell you.
Don't laugh, you can sit in crowd left. You start off here by talking about get your best 3 minutes ever and write it down. And then you did say that. You did say you just go on your own. You don't bring a crowd. You don't bring a posse. And then at the end of the night, you had one final piece of advice. I don't know if you recall this or not.
That's right. You gotta first work on your best 3 minutes, because nobody's gonna give you the 20 minutes to do in your life.
And then you say, and then when it's all over and done with, you crumble it up, you throw it away.
That's kind of. So that shit sucks.
Now, is this how you developed your material? Were you doing open mics? Were you just going wherever there was a microphone and then doing comedy to the point where you're able to sell out, places like the Park West, and when you come back to Schaumburg and do the Improv, you'll be able to sell that out too?
Man, when what was the question again?
The theory that you had in terms of the material that back then, you do it, you get rid of it, and now you have a theory where you do all this material and now you're packing places now rather than just doing open mics. The theories are still the same when you're doing comedy, or have you had to change your strategies a little bit?
Oh man, when I was doing open mic, it was tough, man, because you only have like a little bit of time and a little bit of material to do. Then you don't even know it's open mic. I don't even know what an open mic was. I just know that if I go there, if you sign up, they put you on stage. And I did open mic for a long time, and then when I got my television show, I kept doing more open mic. It wasn't to a comedian named Johnny Sanchez. He told me to call the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, and then from there I did Latino Night at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood because he put in a good word for me. Johnny Sanchez, by the way, he was on Mad TV, and when I was, I think like 11 months later, he recommended me to the Comedy Store, and I showcased for the owner. And let me tell you, I did 3 minutes for her 11 times. So it goes back to what I told you about those 3 minutes. I experienced those 3 minutes. She wanted to see me do 11 types of 3 minutes. And I did them all different every time. And then the 12th time, she told me to do 10. So, and by that time, I just did some of the last 3 minutes I did in the first week, and I did the 10 minutes. But if you're funny enough, if you're really funny, word will get out there. Like, I was funny. People will say good things about me, like Bobby Lee. He will tell people things about me, mention me in a conversation. Johnny Sanchez also. But if you're not funny, I'll tell you right now what you should do. Get a webpage. Get a webpage, get a Twitter, get a Facebook, and you promote yourself, because that's the only way you're going to make it.
Talking to Felipe Esparza, comes to the Chicago Improv in Schaumburg on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st of July. Go to improv.com and clickety-click on the Schaumburg aspect of it. Tell me what it was like when George Lopez says, I'm putting together Viva la Risa for the TBS Comedy Festival, and I want you to be one of the main guys.
I stood up like a soldier. Where'd I go?
Because when he introduced each of you, he told us that this is one of the funniest people I know. I've had him on my show, and I just want you guys to see this guy. It's like he wants to showcase you all. So it's not a George Lopez thing, it's focusing on you guys. But that's huge because he's become big in the industry.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So when George Lopez brings you up, he's not just bringing you up. He's saying a little personal thing about you. And what I like about him is because he tells me too. When he brings me up, he's honest with you. He says, listen, there's a lot of Latino comedians out there, and I don't like none of them, but I like this guy.
Right.
I know the other comedians have stolen my jokes. He said that when he brought me up. They have taken everything I've come up with, but this guy is original, and he brings a different twist, a different style to the game than everybody else. Felipe Esparza. That right there, man, give me a hard on. My nipples are hard. I feel good.
Yeah, he comes back and he says, man, I never thought about the hard-working Latinos, the Mexicans who just want to work hard. He grew up not far from where you grew up, seeing the same types of things, and yet you're talking Home Depot, people wanting to go to work.
free. But I think I found I get to run around. You don't wanna be with me. I ain't gonna wait, 'cause boy, it's getting late. Just pretend that you were me. I'm not hanging around, I see what's going down. One on one, don't make three. Playing my love, I won't let you fool with my emotions. Playing my love, but you don't wanna give me your devotion. No, no, no. This is my decree, so boy, just let me be. Your love isn't true. I won't be the fool playing by your rules. I can't deal with you. You're playing my love. I won't let you fool with my emotions. Playing my love, but you don't wanna give me your devotion. Playing my love, I won't let you fool with my emotions. Playing my love, but you don't wanna give me your devotion. Let her go, and be with me. She's not ready.
He grew up not far from where you grew up, seeing the same types of things, and yet you're talking Home Depot, people wanting to go to work.
Yeah, man, I grew up in Burbank, man, San Fernando, the Big Valley.
But my first interview with him, believe it or not, was in 1992, and he had just come here to Chicago for the first time, and we met up, and to me it was one of those things where I was doing a radio show, and I saw a name, and I said, you know what, this is a Latino name, I don't really know a whole lot about him, but I'm going to make a phone call and see if we can get him on. And then here it is almost 20 years later, and when we were at the Park West, he recognized me after having not seen each other for more than 10 years. So he's the real deal, and you're the real deal too. You're posing for pictures outside of the Park West. You're kind of just hanging out, and you can't hide because you look the way you look. I mean, you can go ahead and put on a tux, but you're still Felipe Esparza.
That's funny. You can't hide because you look the way you look. I know I put on a tux, I put on a hat, I still look the same way. I would have to start walking differently.
No, because I saw pictures all over the Facebook where you're hanging out, posing, with whoever happened to walk up to the Park West early on, I guess when you first arrived, which again is pretty neat because sometimes after so many successes, people outgrow their successes or outgrow their audiences, and you're not at that point, and neither is George. So we have to appreciate both of you for what you're continuing to do with the fans and keeping your feet grounded where some others may not have been able to.
Oh yeah, man, I still catch the bus to auditions.
Hey, it's cheap, and they say that in order to get around in LA, you really need to drive.
I know, man, it's tough on LA.
So we're running out of time quickly. This overnight success story, 16 years in the making. You've not just done stand-up. I found it interesting that you actually had an entire movie devoted based on your material, and I can't tell you that I've seen it before because I just read about it. So tell me about some of your other projects.
Oh, that movie is a special movie. It's a deer movie. This movie happened so fastly I couldn't believe it. I did another movie with Paul Rodriguez and Nick Torturo called The Deported. Watch it on Netflix. The producer of that movie listened to my whole comedy album, but an old bootleg album that I used to always sell, and he listened to it. He said, hey, how would you like to make a movie out of this? And I said, yeah, sure, whatever, You hear that Hollywood story so many times.
Right.
And I said, whatever. Yeah, sure, let's do a movie. So 6 months later, he gets a hold of me and he said, you still want to do that movie? And I said, sure, we could do that movie. So then a month later, he cornered me and took me to dinner. He gave me a fat check. I signed the deal, and he called a writer, director, same guy. He heard my CD, and he came up with 70 minutes of screenplay, and then the whole screenplay is based on my stand-up, and the whole movie, everything I talk about, it's in this movie. My brother coming out of the closet, he comes out of the closet in the movie. My father used to be a wrestler. He's a wrestler in the movie. and he is played by Paul Rodriguez.
It's another Nacho Libre.
Yeah, man.
But now, is this something that we can pick up? Is it something that you have to go to like a big secret place to order from? I read about this and I'm saying, how could I not know about this movie?
Yeah, you can find it on iTunes. I'm Not Like That No More. Download it for $2.99 or buy it for $12.99.
Wow, that's going to be neat. I have to dig that up because anything that focuses on you and your material, and especially the successes you're having now, and the type of people you're having successes with are pretty much the everyday working people. I think it's huge that you've been doing these things, and on behalf of anybody here in the city that hasn't seen you yet, they really have to make the effort because the crowd's going to pop for you, and then you work for them. You do some sweating.
Well, I sweat, man. Another thing, the movie, the hard copy of the movie, I'm Not Like That No More, it'll be out on DVD in September.
Great. Well, you're going to have a nice fall then because you'll debut on Showtime, and at the same time, your DVD is going to be in stores.
On stores and on Amazon.com. Download it, buy it, watch it. Also, another thing, when I won the money, like I won the Last Comic Standing, I donated money to this program that helped me out because from my neighborhood where I grew up, I got into a lot of trouble, into drugs and that kind of thing. And then there's a man named Father Greg Boyle, runs Homeboy Industry, and he went to my house when I was all strung out, and he gave me options. Pretty much there were no options. Die in the streets or go to rehab.
Wow.
So he took me to rehab, and I stood there for a year, and I cleaned up. Never went back to the neighborhood, and I donated money to the Homeboy Industry.
That's something that's worth looking up, Homeboy Industries. So your tales are not just jokes. They're true-to-life tales that you've had to turn into jokes. So you'd rather have people laugh about your life experience than cry about it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty neat. I appreciate the fact that you're giving me all this time on the Celebrity Hotline. You're coming to Schaumburg next weekend. Hopefully I'll be able to get down there and watch you perform again. It was a blast to see you at the Park West. And I know at the Park West you may have done maybe 20 minutes. When you do the improv, this is you. It's all you. So you can do maybe an hour or so, no?
Yes, 45 minutes to an hour.
Well, that's going to be strong. I appreciate it. And yeah, I guess if people want to see little snippets of you on YouTube, they could, but that's not the full Felipe Esparza experience, is it?
Twitter me at Funny Felipe, FUNNYFELIP.
And if you treat your Twitter like you treat your Facebook, that's you. That's not an assistant.
That's me. It's all me.
That's pretty neat. I'm glad you're able to call. Thanks again. It's been a great conversation. I appreciate it. Wow, and it was a great conversation. Sitting ovation for Felipe Esparza, and here we are at www.wakeupdancing.com. And compared to the half hour that we devoted, or 35 minutes or so, at 1590 AM WCGO Chicago, we were able to put on an entire hour of myself and Felipe Esparza on the Celebrity Hotline. So sitting ovation to Felipe. And run, don't walk, to www.wakeupdancing.com so you can listen to this over and over and over again. Link it up to everybody that you know. Let them know that Felipe is going to be at the Chicago Improv. That's in Schaumburg, in the Woodfield Mall, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st of July. Go to improv.com for tickets to that stuff, or go to iTunes and look for Felipe Esparza's Rebound material. My name is Harv Roman. Thank you all for listening and clickety-clicking. Let's listen to some old school Roy Ayers. I was looking for like Ozzy Osbourne or something that Felipe would have really wanted me to play, and I found this on an old school CD, so let's play this. George Lopez would like it at least, no?